two of the most powerful industrial names in the West have just made the same decision. Apple, the company famous for controlling almost every layer of its products, is preparing to integrate artificial intelligence technology from Alibaba and Baidu into devices sold in China. Volkswagen, one of the symbols of German engineering, is giving its Chinese automated driving operation access to a foundation model developed by Horizon Robotics. These announcements arrived only days apart in July 2026. They involve completely different industries, but they point toward the same change. China is no longer useful to Western corporations only because it can manufacture products cheaply and at enormous scale. It is becoming a source of technology those corporations believe they need to remain competitive inside one of the world's most demanding markets. Apple needs Chinese AI to complete Apple Intelligence for Chinese users. Volkswagen needs Chinese software, chips, data platforms, and development speed to keep pace with local electric car companies. Neither company is surrendering its global technology strategy. But both have accepted something that would have sounded unusual 10 years ago. In critical areas of the next technology cycle, China is no longer simply the factory. It is becoming part of the brain. This video is going to explain why Apple selected Alibaba and Baidu, why Volkswagen is moving automated driving development deeper into China, and what these partnerships reveal about the changing balance between Western brands and Chinese technology companies. No pretending Apple has handed control of the iPhone to Alibaba. No claiming Volkswagen has abandoned German engineering. And no suggesting Chinese technology has become superior in every category. The reality is more specific and more important. Apple faces a regulatory and competitive environment where its normal global AI strategy cannot simply be copied into China. Volkswagen faces an automotive market moving so quickly that software developed through traditional European timelines risks becoming outdated before the vehicle reaches customers. Both companies are adapting by building China-specific systems with Chinese partners. The reason is not ideology. It is survival inside a market that now develops certain technologies faster than many foreign companies can import them. If these partnerships succeed, Chinese AI may power features across Apple devices, while Chinese automotive models may help Volkswagen vehicles understand roads and make driving decisions. That is not a small supplier relationship. It is technology moving in the opposite direction from the pattern the world became accustomed to. Let us begin with Apple, because Apple's decision is the more surprising one. The company built its reputation around vertical integration. It designs the iPhone, develops iOS, creates its own processors, controls the App Store, operates the cloud services, and decides how hardware and software work together. When Apple introduced Apple Intelligence outside China, it combined on-device models, Apple-controlled infrastructure, and external services such as OpenAI for selected requests. But China does not allow a foreign consumer AI service to enter the market simply because it works elsewhere. Companies must register large language models and generative AI services with regulators before making them available to the public. Foreign AI systems also operate within a different legal, data, and content environment. That meant Apple could not just activate the same system it offered in the United States. For many months, Chinese iPhone owners watched local rivals integrate generative AI, while Apple Intelligence remained unavailable. On July 15, 2026, China's cyberspace regulator registered Apple's on-device generative AI service, clearing an important regulatory obstacle. But the service reaching that point was no longer a completely American stack. It was designed to incorporate models and capabilities from Alibaba and Baidu. Alibaba confirmed that its Qwen model would be integrated into Apple Intelligence across the Chinese versions of iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and visionOS. Baidu also confirmed that it was working with Apple on features for Chinese iPhone users. Apple has not publicly explained every technical boundary between its own models and those supplied by its Chinese partners, and the regulator's announcement did not provide a final launch date. That uncertainty matters. It would be inaccurate to say every AI operation on a Chinese iPhone will be performed by Alibaba or Baidu. Apple still controls the device, operating systems, silicon, interface, and broader Apple Intelligence experience. But the partnership means Chinese models will contribute capabilities at several levels of the product stack. For Alibaba, that is an extraordinary endorsement. Apple had considered several major Chinese technology companies before selecting its partners. Alibaba chairman Joe Tsai publicly said Apple wanted to use Alibaba's AI to power its phones in China. A company that once learned from American software platforms is now contributing core AI technology to one of the most controlled consumer ecosystems ever created. Why could Apple not simply rely entirely on its own models? The first answer is regulation, but regulation is only part of the story. A useful AI assistant in China needs deep knowledge of the Chinese language, local services, business listings, maps, shopping platforms, cultural references, and the way Chinese users communicate across different applications. It must operate within domestic rules and connect with an internet ecosystem that differs dramatically from the one used by customers in the United States or Europe. Google services are largely unavailable. OpenAI products are not offered through the same normal consumer channels. Search, payments, food delivery, travel, social communication, and e-commerce are dominated by Chinese platforms. Alibaba and Baidu have trained models around that environment and operate domestic cloud infrastructure capable of supporting Chinese services at scale. Apple could attempt to recreate all of that independently, but doing so would take time while Huawei, Xiaomi, Vivo, Honor, and other competitors continue releasing AI features. Partnering allows Apple to move faster, satisfy local requirements, and avoid rebuilding an entire Chinese AI ecosystem from zero. The decision is therefore both defensive and practical. Use local intelligence to protect the value of a global hardware platform. The competitive pressure is real. Apple Intelligence has become one of the central stories Apple uses to explain why customers should upgrade to newer hardware. But in China, the feature arrived late while local manufacturers were already placing AI inside cameras, voice assistants, search tools, productivity software, messaging, translation, and connected device systems. A feature that exists in California but cannot be activated in Beijing does not help sell an iPhone in Beijing. Apple's China shipments rose 24.4% year-over-year in the second quarter of 2026, showing that the company remains highly competitive. This is not a rescue operation for a brand that has disappeared. It is an attempt to prevent a major product disadvantage from reappearing as AI becomes more important. The Qwen and Baidu partnerships allow Apple to say that Chinese buyers will not receive a permanently incomplete version of the iPhone, but they also expose a deeper change. Apple's famous independence has limits whenever the company enters a market whose regulations, digital services, and model ecosystem are strong enough to require a separate technology strategy. China is now large and technically capable enough to force that adaptation. Volkswagen reached a similar conclusion through a completely different route. The German automaker spent decades building its reputation around engines, transmissions, chassis design, manufacturing quality, and global scale. But the modern Chinese car market increasingly judges vehicles as digital products. Customers compare driver assistance systems, voice control, navigation, parking automation, software updates, entertainment, charging, and the speed at which new features appear. Chinese automakers can sometimes develop a model in a fraction of the time required by a traditional global company. They operate inside a market filled with advanced electric vehicle suppliers, battery companies, chip designers, mapping systems, and AI developers. Volkswagen still sells millions of vehicles and remains one of the world's largest automakers, but its old strengths are no longer enough. Reuters reported that the company is under pressure to keep pace with Chinese brands moving faster in electrification, digital features, pricing, and development. Volkswagen's answer is the "in China, for China" strategy. Move more research and engineering authority into the country, instead of developing everything in Germany and adapting it afterward. At the center of that strategy is Horizon Robotics, a Chinese company specializing in chips and computing systems for intelligent vehicles. Volkswagen began building a deeper relationship with Horizon in 2022, announcing an investment of approximately 2.4 billion euros and the creation of a joint venture in which Volkswagen's software division would hold a majority stake. That joint venture became CARIZON, Volkswagen's automated driving development operation in China. The original goal was to combine Horizon's hardware and software with Volkswagen engineering to produce scalable driver assistance systems tailored to Chinese roads. By July 2026, the relationship had moved significantly further. Volkswagen announced that CARIZON would receive white box access to Horizon's AI foundation model. That phrase is important. A black box service allows a customer to send information into a model and receive an output without understanding what happens inside. White box access provides much deeper visibility and control, allowing Volkswagen engineers to adapt, optimize, and integrate the model into their own driving system. Volkswagen is not merely purchasing an off-the-shelf feature. It is building proprietary capabilities on top of Chinese AI technology. The model is intended to help Volkswagen create a unified end-to-end driving system. Traditional automated driving software often divides the task into many separate modules. One system identifies vehicles, another reads road markings, another predicts pedestrian movement, another plans a path. End-to-end models attempt to connect raw sensor information more directly to driving decisions through a unified AI architecture. The goal is to help the vehicle understand complicated traffic, predict the behavior of other road users, and respond to rare situations that engineers may not have programmed individually. Chinese roads provide an unusually demanding development environment. Vehicles must respond to dense traffic, scooters, bicycles, pedestrians, unusual lane behavior, construction, and rapid changes across different cities. Horizon has trained its technology inside that environment, while Volkswagen brings decades of safety engineering, vehicle integration, validation, and manufacturing experience. Volkswagen's argument is that combining those strengths will allow it to develop Level 3 and Level 4 systems faster than either side could alone. Level 3 permits the driver to stop continuously monitoring the road under approved conditions. Level 4 enables driverless operation within defined environments, including possible robotaxi services. Volkswagen is already converting parts of the strategy into products. CARIZON's Level 2++ urban assisted driving system entered series production in the second half of 2026 and is scheduled for deployment across 7 new energy vehicle models from Volkswagen Group China during the year. Level 3 deliveries are targeted for the second half of 2027. The deeper Horizon partnership is also connected to the C7H system on chip and Volkswagen's Gaia World Model Data Platform. Together, those technologies are intended to create a locally developed hardware and software stack rather than a collection of imported components. Volkswagen has also worked with Chinese electric car manufacturer XPeng on the China Electronic Architecture, a locally developed electrical and electronic platform that can support new software and vehicle functions across multiple models. This is where the story expands beyond Chinese customers. Volkswagen says the resulting technologies could eventually support selected international markets, particularly regions with similar needs in the Middle East, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, and the broader global south. Chinese-developed systems may therefore begin inside China and later travel outward inside vehicles carrying German brands. Volkswagen is also developing its first self-designed automotive system on chip in China through CARIZON. The company announced the project in November 2025 and described the chip as a central technology for advanced driver assistance and future autonomous driving. The chip is being designed specifically around Chinese roads and customer expectations, with Horizon involved through the joint venture. This shows how far the relationship has progressed. Volkswagen is not only buying a Chinese processor, it is using China's semiconductor and AI ecosystem to help design a processor carrying Volkswagen's own development strategy. The distinction is similar to Apple's approach. Apple is not purchasing an Alibaba phone, it is placing Alibaba's model capabilities inside an Apple-controlled device. Volkswagen is not selling a Horizon-branded car. It is combining Horizon's AI and computing knowledge with Volkswagen-controlled vehicle platforms. Both companies are using Chinese technology underneath Western product identities. This hybrid structure allows them to preserve brand, interface, safety standards, and customer relationships while acquiring local capabilities they cannot reproduce quickly enough on their own. The motivations of Apple and Volkswagen are not identical. Apple's immediate problem is that China's regulatory system prevents a simple global rollout of its AI services. It needs approved domestic partners to provide a complete Apple Intelligence experience. Volkswagen's immediate problem is competitive speed. Chinese automakers have turned software, automated driving, and digital interaction into major purchasing criteria, forcing Volkswagen to shorten development cycles and move technical authority closer to the market. But both problems produce the same strategic result. Localization is no longer just translating menus or changing a product's exterior. It requires rebuilding part of the technology stack inside China. That means local models, local data, local chips, local architecture, local developers, and local regulatory approval. For decades, multinational corporations often brought advanced technology into China and trained domestic suppliers to manufacture it. Now companies are discovering that succeeding in China may require importing Chinese technical capabilities into their own systems. The direction of knowledge transfer has become two-way. In AI and intelligent vehicles, parts of it may increasingly run from Chinese companies toward Western brands. This does not mean China now controls Apple or Volkswagen. Apple continues designing its own processors, operating systems, devices, privacy architecture, and global AI platform. The Alibaba and Baidu arrangement applies to China-specific services, not every iPhone worldwide. Volkswagen continues controlling its vehicle engineering, safety requirements, platforms, brands, manufacturing, and global product strategy. CARIZON is majority-controlled through Volkswagen's software operation, and the company describes its goal as building internal capability rather than permanently outsourcing intelligence. The headline is about direction, not ownership. Two Western companies are turning toward Chinese technology because it is locally necessary, commercially useful, or technically advanced, not because they have abandoned their own engineering. That distinction matters. Partnerships can strengthen the Western company while creating risks at the same time. Access to Chinese technology may accelerate development, but it can also create dependence on partners, regulations, supply chains, and models that operate under another country's legal environment. Apple and Volkswagen must decide which layers to share and which must remain completely under their own control. There are also major risks for the Chinese partners. Alibaba gains one of the most prestigious possible customers, but Apple will still control the user relationship. Chinese iPhone owners may interact with Qwen-powered capabilities without ever seeing Alibaba's brand prominently displayed. Horizon can help Volkswagen develop advanced driving technology, but Volkswagen may absorb enough knowledge to become more independent later. Partnerships with global giants can generate revenue, validation, data, and international credibility, yet they can also reduce a Chinese supplier to an invisible layer beneath a foreign product. Regulatory and geopolitical tensions add another problem. A relationship approved today could be restricted later by Washington, Beijing, or European authorities. AI models raise concerns about data governance, content rules, cybersecurity, and intellectual property. Automated driving systems raise questions about mapping, vehicle data, safety liability, and cross-border transfer. The deeper the integration becomes, the harder it is to separate technology from politics. Apple and Volkswagen are making these investments because the commercial opportunity is large enough to justify that complexity. But neither company can assume the partnerships will remain politically simple. The broader message is that China has moved beyond competing mainly through price. Alibaba's Qwen is valuable to Apple because it is a serious AI platform capable of operating within the Chinese ecosystem. Horizon is valuable to Volkswagen because it has foundation model technology, automotive processors, and experience developing intelligent driving systems in the world's largest car market. XPeng is valuable because it has built modern electrical architecture and software-defined vehicles under intense domestic competition. These companies emerged from a Chinese market where products develop quickly, customers expect constant digital improvement, and dozens of competitors force one another to lower costs and increase capability. That environment can be brutal. Many companies lose money or disappear, but the survivors accumulate engineering speed that slower global corporations struggle to reproduce. Western companies once came to China primarily for scale, labor, and supplier efficiency. They are now increasingly coming for models, software, vehicle architecture, batteries, robotics, autonomous driving data, and applied AI. China's role in the global economy is shifting from manufacturing technology designed elsewhere to helping design the technology itself. So why are Apple and Volkswagen turning to Chinese technology? Because China has become too important, too technically capable, and too different to serve through a standard global product. Apple needs locally approved AI models that understand China's language, services, regulations, and digital environment. Volkswagen needs automotive AI and electronics developed at the speed Chinese consumers and competitors now demand. Both companies could try to solve those problems alone, but doing so would cost time, and time may be more dangerous than dependence. Every year, Apple delays complete AI features gives Huawei and other domestic smartphone companies another opportunity to strengthen their ecosystems. Every slow Volkswagen development cycle gives BYD, XPeng, Geely, Li Auto, NIO, and other Chinese automakers more time to redefine what customers expect from a vehicle. Alibaba, Baidu, Horizon, and XPeng offer something these Western companies cannot manufacture instantly: knowledge created through years of operating inside China's unique market. The partnerships are therefore not acts of charity or political symbolism. They are acknowledgments that local technology has become strategically valuable. That may be the most important change of all. Apple and Volkswagen helped define two of the great technology eras of the last century: personal computing and the modern automobile. China spent decades adopting, manufacturing, and improving products built around those Western systems. Now the next eras, generative AI and software-defined intelligent vehicles, are developing through a more complicated relationship. Western companies still hold enormous strengths in brands, engineering, global distribution, semiconductors, safety, and ecosystem control. Chinese companies hold growing advantages in local AI models, automotive software, development speed, manufacturing scale, and access to a fiercely competitive domestic market. neither side can easily dominate every layer alone. The result may not be complete technological separation or simple Chinese replacement of Western companies. It may be hybrid products, American devices powered partly by Chinese AI and German cars learning to drive through Chinese models and chips. Apple and Volkswagen are not walking away from their identities. They are adapting those identities to a world where China is no longer only where products are assembled. Increasingly, it is where some of their most important future capabilities are being created.